So with the conquest of Rome in 476, the barbarians brought the ancient history to an end, and they ushered in the Middle Ages, which were to continue for almost 1,000 years until 1453. The eastern part of the Roman Empire, with Constantinople as a capital, was not defeated by the barbarians. The Eastern Empire, comprised of the Balkan Peninsula, Asia Minor, Syria, Palestine, Egypt, and a few other places. It was known as the Byzantine Empire. Byzantine Empire. Some of you may have heard that name before, I don't know. Because when you talk about what text of the Bible is the best text, sometimes you will hear the Byzantine text. The Byzantine text, the majority text, and the received text are three related terminology. Byzantine text means the text that was based during the Byzantine kings. Byzantine kings, the Byzantine era. Majority text, of course, means the majority of the text. And received text means what text God has given us. That's the meaning. So these Byzantine kings were the kings who ruled from Constantinople. See, I mentioned earlier that Constantinople was the new capital Emperor Constantine has made, because he felt Rome was so, drank so much blood of the saints that it should not be called the capital of the Christian, religion. So he changed the capital from Rome to Constantinople. He himself, came and lived there. But sadly, as history goes, that also started out a great conflict that ended in the division of the Roman Empire and also the Christians into two, the Orthodox Church and the Roman Catholic Church. It all happened because of the proximity of the emperor to Constantinople. Before it was the emperor, the bishop at Rome was closer to the emperor because the emperor was in Rome. So, anything in the religious matters the king needed to do, it was usually done through the bishop at Rome. And bishop at Rome enjoyed a special place that way. He had more influence upon the king. But now that the emperor himself shifted to Constantinople, the bishop of Constantinople has taken over the importance. So anything the king wanted now to be done, he got it done through the bishop of Constantinople. Means he became almost his religious secretary, otherwise the other man. So these two people became jealous of each other. So they begin to cut each other. They, for every possible area of disagreement, they wanted to make an issue. So that the bishop at Rome wanted to disqualify the bishop at Constantinople, and the Constantinople had, bishop at Constantinople wanted to disqualify the other one, complaining that he is doing this, he is teaching this way, he is teaching this way, he should be removed, that sort of a thing. So that problem was there. There were some pagans still in the Eastern Empire, but the emperor and the great majority of the people were at least nominal Christians. They were also very much advanced in art and philosophy. The Greeks, when heathen, had written many books. Now that they are Christians, still wrote many more books. Constantinople was a great city where the treasures of the East were stored. Of course, all the treasures of the West were taken away by the barbarians. It ended up in Germany and France and many other places, so it was gone. So the Constantinople and the Eastern Empire, remained. So that was a blow to the bishop at Rome in one sense, that he did not have the support of the emperor. But on the other hand, it made him the sole. Almost he replaced the emperor and the bishop became the emperor, because he began to control the political affairs also, So that's very interesting. There are some incidents happened. It is interesting to observe that the Western Europe became basically, nominal Christians. Italy came under Rome and learned Latin and are basically Christian. A great part of the barbarians were now converted to Christianity. Many Germans, the Goths, the Burgundians, they all settled down in eastern Gaul or Germany. They also accepted Christianity. Britain was still heathen because the people who conquered were heathen. All of Russia, Sweden, Denmark, Norway, they are all still heathen countries. The church had a big job to do with the many heathen countries to reach. The church has lost the vigor and its support from the king. Many of the barbarian kings of the parts of the Roman Empire did not show any sympathy to Christianity. The church once again faced a heathen world all around. So the problem was there again, that it's true that the Eastern Roman Empire was there and nominally Christian, but the Western Empire, was completely defeated, and therefore, and also many of these people who defeated the Roman Empire, many parts of that one came under these kings, and those kings were pagans, and they didn't have no sympathy, for Christianity. So the world where Paul took the gospel was civilized Roman Empire. But the world now where the gospel is to be taken is uncivilized. The places where Paul went, they were a civilized empire, They were great either education centers or military centers or commercial centers. But the places that are now not evangelized pagans, they are just pagans, outright pagans. No influence of Christianity, no influence of Rome, because they were outside the Roman Empire. So the culture of the Rome didn't come there. So the church standing between the uncivilized barbarian world and the civilized Roman Empire, they had twofold task. One, Christianizing the barbarians. Secondly, educating the barbarians. The barbarians were uneducated people. They couldn't read and write, most of them. It doesn't mean they are not cultured people. They were cultured people, but they were barbarian. The word barbarian, sometimes people understand that uncivilized people. No, that's not. It means that they were not the people in the Greek culture, the Alexander the Great as Hellenized, or the Roman culture, where the Roman emperors were cultured, but they had their own culture, which was a different thing. So whatever we may say about the quality of the church in the next 500 years, one thing we should admit, that they Christianized the entire Europe. All these places, including, Germany and France and Ireland and England and Russia and, Scandinavian countries, and all these countries were Christianized by these people 500 years. It's not an ordinary thing, That's by 1500, new nations with their own cultures had developed, influenced by the medieval civilizations they had inherited. The barbarians were not learned people. They could not read and write, but they were intelligent people. They destroyed many books, but not all. They had no value for books, What is this thing? They smelled it. What is this thing? They just burned them. But they were very intelligent people, And it's very interesting that many people who didn't have the opportunity for education, they are very intelligent. Intelligence has nothing to do with education. Intelligence means that a person is intelligent. That means he can understand what is being taught. That's one thing. Secondly, he can think through an issue. Third is he can recall to memory. If a person has these three qualities, then he is called an intelligent person. If he can understand what another person is communicating, the understanding power, then he has the retaining power. He has the thinking power, Those three, our brain is like this. They say that the Eastern and Western hemisphere, one is for understanding, learning, the other is for retaining and thinking, So, these people, I think that their brain was working, but they didn't have very many things stored up there, that's all. But the brain had the capacity to to understand. And that's very true. We go to some of these tribal people, we feel the tribal people are very intelligent, some of them. They're very intelligent. You just tell them one time, they understand it. I mean, they can understand it. Sometimes you talk to the so-called educated people, you try to communicate with them, you explain again and again and again, they keep on asking, what do you mean, what do you mean, what do you mean? Heard the story of a judge, and a lawyer was pleading his case. The judge was repeatedly asking, what do you mean, what do you mean, what do you mean? 5-6 times the lawyer got irritated and said, Your Lordship, I can only explain, cannot give you the intelligence to understand it. That's a problem, I can only explain, but I cannot give you the intelligence to understand it. So these barbarians, you don't have to give them the intelligence to understand it. You only need to explain them. And, the monks in caves, etc., did one good thing during this period. The Roman Empire was destroyed, but most of the monks were in the desert. There will be some, some cave or something. That's where they will take. What were they doing there? They were true meditating, but one good thing, they were copying Bible. This was one of their main job. They will make copying. The printing was not there, The older copies by use become, kind of, fading, letters fading and all that. Before that, the rule was that before the original is faded, every letter is still clear, they have to make a copy of it and then burn the original. That's why we don't have Paul's and Peter's writings. Because there may be some letters that faded, people may guess and copy. That will be sin. They were so meticulously, the scribes were trained to do that one. So it was required in Judaism that the original must be copied when it is still clear, and it must be destroyed, because otherwise people will be guessing and copying it. They will supply their own. And so, that's why so the first century copies also gone, they were used. By the time it is second and third centuries, tens of thousands of copies came into existence, because everybody was having copies. So we have many, many copies. So people sometimes say that, like the critical text people, the NIV, etc. people, they all say that, they have the earlier copies of the manuscript, earlier manuscripts. There's a second century. By the King James manuscripts or the received text manuscripts are second century, later second century or third century. So, older the manuscript, better it is. But the argument is not valid. Older the manuscript and still in good condition means it was an unused manuscript. Nobody used it. That was true about the critical text manuscript. They all came from one place, Alexandria in Egypt. The library there has made copies, they edited copies. Most of the editing was done on the deity of Christ, and they have made, and nobody used it. But the received text, the King James manuscript, came from all over the Christian world, all Palestine, Syria, and all over the Roman world, and that copy, that's a majority text, they say that. Because the originals and the first and second century copy were destroyed to make further copies, naturally that the copy of the Bible that was used is lost. So where are you going to find them? So the argument that the older the better is not a valid argument. Actually, that's a fooling argument, Anyway, these monks have to be thankful, And I sometimes think that, we may condemn the monks and all that, yes. But, God has a purpose sometimes. If these people were not there engaged in copying the Bible, we may go without having any Bible, the preservation of the Word of God. God used these men. They did nothing else. They only stayed there. They, eat little bit, little leaves or grass or little water, and for the life to survive in the body, and they will be sitting there, and all day they were, copying. They were making their own book, the papyrus and all that. They were making their own, paper, and they will be copying, drying it, and they will be piling it up, and then, all those kind of things. So there were plenty of of Bible copies available. That's the point I was trying to say, that this way the copies of the Bible were made available to the people. The services of the monks have done excellent contribution to the continuance of Christianity. Actually, the monks themselves are not, monasticism and this asceticism, they are not necessarily a biblical contribution. They are not found in the Bible, but yet with this, unbiblical group, you may say that God has used them to preserve the scriptures. Isn't that amazing? Yes, it's amazing. God usually do that, God usually do that. The Franks, under the leadership of the king Clovis, gradually extended their rule to Gaul. From this time, Gaul was called France. The Franks were the first Germanic tribe to adopt Christianity after the invasion. The story is told about the conversion of Clovis to Christianity, very similar to that of Constantine, very similar to, it's almost a copy. It is said that in the heat of the battle, Clovis saw the sign of the cross in the sky. He vowed to become a Christian if he would win the war, and he won the battle, and he was baptized together with 3,000 soldiers, on Christmas Day of the year 469 in the city of Reims. So very parallel story, very parallel story, but it's very much interesting that. So Christianity began to be spread to the Germans and the France and all those kind of people. People accepted Christianity personally before this. From this moment on, tribes became Christians when the king became a king. Before that it was all personal conversion, but now it is mass tribal conversion. More or less what taken place in the northeastern states, basically same thing, It was all tribal conversions. You have many northeastern states where, Mizoram or Nagaland, and all these states, that's what happened. The tribal head become a Christian. And the missionaries come and talk to the tribal head and present this. And if he is convinced, and he could be very easily convinced because of some benefits will be offered, and then everybody else, Of course, he will have a chit-chat with the people, he will call them, and then these people came from, this is the truth, and if we become Christians, they're going to give us this and this and this, that, and so I decided, so you all doing it. Tomorrow is our baptism, okay? So everybody ready? Okay, a great festival and eating and drinking, plenty of pork and plenty of what else, these people wanted to eat and will be given, That's the way, so the mass conversions. Is mass conversion wrong? Can you say mass conversion is wrong? Well, that's a big question, it's a debate. Mass conversion is wrong, The Ambedkar, the father of our constitution, came to the Protestant missionaries and told them that we will all, en masse, all the tribal people, you think of that in India how much, the tribal, we will accept Christianity if only you will provide us, some upliftment. We are trodden down people. And the Protestant missionaries said that, but we cannot make Christians like that, only personally everybody has to accept. So most of them went into Buddhism, Ambedkar included. What a foolishness, I sometimes think that we could have taught the children to Christianity. Now see, they've all gone pagan. See that? Such opportunity should never be, never be, because, you don't need to baptize them. You don't need to baptize them. You don't need to, but you can welcome them to Christendom. After all, the other Christianity was not all born again. The majority of the Christianity was not born again. But these people have requested that, come on in, you will be considered part of Christendom, and when you are personally born again, then only we will baptize you and all that. That's true. But what they wanted was some schools to be started, some factories to be started, employment to be generated, and all those things, even now that's a problem. You go to villages, sometimes the village people, they don't know a lot of truths, but their needs are, the trodden down people. And they sometimes ask the same kind of things, We could either say that, no, only if you accept Jesus Christ, yes, but you accept Jesus Christ, you will be baptized and a member of the church. See, becoming the member of the church and becoming the religion Christendom are different, Now we ask somebody, what's your religion? Say Christianity. We immediately say, no, you are not a Christian, only I am a Christian. Why? Because you are not born again. We don't say that. We get a piece of paper form, application form from the government, and there is a column say religion. What do you write? Your children were to put to school. What do you write for your children?
Christian.
Well, were they born again? So you have written, right? So we all do that. That's what I'm saying. We all do that. 3-year, 4-year-old child is written what? Christian. So are we honest? No, what we are saying is they belong to Christendom. Government doesn't care whether you are born again, baptized, that's your personal business. All the government wants to know is what? What religion you belong to, that's all what it means that. So everybody, as Paul said that everybody in Israel is not a real Jew. Everybody is not real, Israelite. Every Jew is not an Israelite. Only those who are born from Abraham by covenant, So there is always a distinction between the true Israel and the false Israel. There is true Christian and the false Christian. There is what we call the Christendom. Now, whether we wanted to bring people to Christendom, well, it's easy to make Christians true believers from nominal Christians than making true Christians from some other religion. At least we could have them under the teaching, we could preach the gospel to them, we can teach their children in the Sunday schools, and the second generation at least we could have a good number of them. Now we lost all generations. But that's my personal opinion. I know that I will be condemned as a heretic by some.
But this thing about Ambedkar going to the Protestants, was it Ambedkar or was the followers reason?
No, it said that even Ambedkar himself was he talked to some missionaries and said that, our people are... See, Ambedkar really CH1KAT did not know where to put. They are not Hindus, they cannot be put Hindus. One of the Chaturvarnyams, they were not. So he only put them scheduled tribes. So he says scheduled tribes, and because they are not Hindus or Christians or in religion, so they made a category called scheduled tribe, scheduled caste. They were called scheduled caste because only 4 castes are in Hinduism. So these people were not, but yet they were they were not part of these tribal people. So but they are the scheduled caste. This is a scheduled tribe. So he didn't want the scheduled tribe to come actually, he wanted them to be put under Christians. That was his idea, but that didn't work out. Even to the Roman Catholics they would have done it. Even to the, because for them it's very easy, give Mamodisa. Anyway, that's how Constantine and others have done. Even though Constantine was not a Roman Catholic, because Roman Catholicism was not there. So my opinion was that, there are situations where mass migration or mass conversion is necessary to Christendom. You cannot do that to Christian church. No, the church is only born again people. No born again person can come to the church. Even though there may be some in our churches who claim to be, that we cannot see the heart, but we cannot take anybody. So, about 100 years after the death of, where am I? No, sorry. So people accepted Christianity personally before this. From this moment, the tribals became Christians. The whole tribe became Christians. The other German tribes that accepted Christianity were the Aryans, You know what Aryans is, Indo-Germanic Aryan people. The Franks adopted the Orthodox Christianity of the Nicene Creed. But the converted Germans tribes were, basically heretics because Arianism was there, The conversion of Franks to Orthodox Christianity was an event of great importance. Before the fall of the empire in the West, Christianity was introduced into Britain by Christian soldiers. In the last years, a monk called Patrick became the apostle of the Ireland. About 100 years after the death of Saint Patrick, an Irish monk by the name Columba took the gospel to Iona off the west coast of Scotland. From there, Columba spread Christianity to Scotland. 1 year before the death of Columba, Gregory the Great, he is very important for the Roman Catholic because he is the first pope, Gregory the Great. Gregory the Great sent the monk Augustine with the 40 other monks to England, which Roman times, had been known as Britain, Britain, Britain. Since the conquest of the Britain by the Angles, Angles, don't angels, Angles, and Saxons, the name changed to Angliland, which later became England. Angliland, England, by saying it became England. The Angles and the Saxons were terrible pagans. And when they conquered Britain in the 5th century, they erased Christianity from Britain. So it was necessary to evangelize again. Once Gregory the Great was walking in the city of Rome, he saw two young blondes with blue eyes in the slave market. He approached them and he asked them, "Where are you from?" They said, "From Angles." And Gregory said, "No, you are not from Angles, but you are angels." So he decided to send missionaries to Angles, and that converted them, So once the Britons were converted, they became great missionaries. They labored among the heathen of Europe. The greatest of these missionaries were Boniface. He went to Germany, Netherlands, and many countries. By the year 1000, the Christianization of Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Russia, they were all, made progress.
That was not a proper conversion.
Well, we should not confuse that they were all born again and baptized. No, they only accepted Christianity. Now to say that none of them were truly born again is also very difficult, because there were a lot of born again people at that time. There were a lot of pagans just baptized. It was a mixture of the two. So which missionary went? Was he a born again missionary or that's a question that we are not able to decide.
The Bible, a non-born again person go as a missionary, which involves sacrifice. Is it similar to nuns and priests in that Catholicism today?
Well, yeah, but the Catholicism was not there then, only Christianity was there. So they were going as missionaries of the Christianity that they have known. That Christianity may not be the apostolic Christianity that we are, believing. But it's very much possible that many of them were born again Christians. But then it is a debated issue how much a pagan needs to know to become to be born again. This is a question that is highly debated. Somebody who worships hundreds of gods and nature and for human sacrifices, this and that, then a missionary comes and says that Jesus Christ is the only God, Bible is the only God's book. Will you reject all your gods and accept Jesus Christ as the true God? And he, along with all the tribes, do. Will you say they are not Christians, or will you say they are Christians? This is a question. So this is highly debated, how much knowledge a pagan really needs to be called a born again Christian. Today we are talking to people who are overexposed to Christianity. They have seen all kinds of Christianity, the misuses of Christianity. So we are talking them to become a Christian, they immediately coming their mind what? The brand of Christianity they have seen of drinking